Two things to do today. I'm going to tell you about that quiz tomorrow. The quiz tomorrow is 40 points. In your notebook, put these two examples next to each other that I have right here. Example number 1 and example number 2. I want to finish this from yesterday first. Just this right here, and right here. This is just going to kind of finish what I was doing yesterday. What's the matter?
For 51, is that tangent? You have 51.
Hold on, I'll get to this in a few minutes.
Okay.
I'm going to get to the homework in a minute.
Oh,
I want to
okay.
do this first.
Yeah, sorry.
So I'm going to put your homework paper back there.
Right.
And then these two go in your notebook right here. This is going to finish yesterday. Perform the indicated operations and then simplify. I'm hoping it would be obvious. What would you do to that first? Now again, this is the third day in a row I've been saying this. You're using freshman algebra on trig. What you doing? I think you're beginning to see that, Howard.
You use FOIL.
That's a FOIL, right? So if you go first 2, that's 1. You go outer 2, that's plus secant of theta. You go inner 2, that's minus cosine of theta. And somebody raise your hand. What would be the answer to the last 2? Look what's there. Remember all your identities now. We've been doing this all week. Dave?
Negative cosine theta, secant theta.
Look, you might as well go right to the answer. Cosine and secant, you might as well go right to it, because what you know from your identities, they're reciprocals, Dave. If you take a cosine times a secant, you're going to get, Howard,
-1.
you're going to get a 1, right? Dave, you see what I'm saying? Take a cosine times a secant, that's going to be -1. If you take a cosecant times a sine, it's going to be 1. Take a tan times a cotan, that's going to be a 1, because they're reciprocals.
Okay.
Now, look, these 1s cancel. All right, now take a look at this. All right, come on now, somebody. I would like to think you're getting better at what we're doing here. The proving identities that you've been hearing me talk about, we haven't started that yet. This is all preliminary work. What are you going to do? Right there. Yep.
1 over sine of theta minus cosine.
Wrong one.
Oh, 1 over cosine.
Convert the sines and cosines, so secant is 1 over cosine minus cosine. Please stop me again if you have a question. Don't wait. Now, use your freshman algebra. What are you going to do? I was doing this yesterday. Chris.
You need a LCD.
Common denominator is obviously cosine of theta, right? Everybody, so look. What's this fraction going to become? Because you got to get a cosine down here. Joe?
Cosine squared theta over cosine theta.
Fellas, this is really big, what's happening here, and you're going to see this next week. Do you all see that? Cosine of theta is common denominator, you're going to times by a cosine over cosine, which will give you this. Now, if you want, just look what I'm doing here. If you want to go right to the next step, I'm okay with that. In other words, somebody, raise your hand and tell me, what's the one fraction going to be for that? Because they both have equal denominators now. Ethan.
1, yeah, or 1 over, or no, 1 minus cosine squared theta over cosine theta.
You see what I'm saying? If you want to go right from here right to that's okay. Now, if you need to show that, go ahead and show it. But you can see it times by a cosine, so 1 minus cosine squared over cosine. Now, do you see an identity? Wow, here we go again. I wasn't lying, was I? Remember the one I told you would keep coming up so many times? What's the numerator? Come on, he's gotta get good at working with these identities. Andrew. Yeah, there's those Pythagorean identities over there. So 1 minus cosine is sine squared. Look at that, because I know what part of your questions are. You know, how do you know when you're done? Is there something that you can do with that? The answer is no. Do you all understand that? Nothing fits. None of these identities fit to that. So this started out all that. You got it reduced down to that. Okay, look at example 2. And, you know, I've been doing this from this freshman algebra stuff. Look. You don't have to write this down, just look. If you had a subtraction, if those were the two denominators, what would be the LCD? You had two denominators. This is, again, 9th grade algebra. You had an x plus 1 down here and an x minus 1 down there. What's the common denominator? Howard?
The quantity of x plus 1 times the quantity of x minus 1.
Have to count them both. You with me on that? So, common denominator here, I don't care if you write this down, would be sine of x minus 1 times sine of x plus 1. Okay, now somebody, what do you have to multiply the first fraction by to get that? But be careful here. Come on. Jack. Okay, so there's just a 1 up there. So if you times by sine of x plus 1, isn't that going to be sine of x plus 1 over, now, let me just, do you see that, everyone? Please ask me a question if you have one. What do you have to multiply the second fraction by to get that common denominator? Somebody? Rob, what do you got to times this fraction by to get that?
Sine of x minus 1.
Okay, sine of x minus 1 over, where's the common denominator? Here's where you got to pick. Be careful. Aren't you ready to make one fraction now? Because the denominators are equal, right? Rob, pay attention. Don't eat your iPad right now. So here's the bottom. Now, somebody, it's such a simple thing from algebra. You got this plus this, then you got this up here, but there's a minus sign in front of that second fraction. What do you got to do? This is 9th grade algebra, basic 9th grade algebra. I'm going to start writing all these terms down. So the sine of x plus 1, okay, that's just coming down. But this fraction has a minus sign in front of it. So what do I got to do to all that stuff that's on the top there? Noah? Flip the sign, right? So that sine of x is going to become minus sine of x, and that minus 1 is going to become plus 1. And what happens very nicely on the top, it got a lot simpler, didn't it? Somebody. What happened up in the numerator? Go, just reduce now. Normal simplify. Oh my gosh, come on, look at this right there in front of you. Chris.
The signs cancel out.
So what's the only thing in the numerator?
2.
2. 1 plus 1 is 2. Can you do anything with fundamental identities with that? The answer is no. What are you going to do? Nothing available to use. Now take your iPads out.